to mystery and horror, the air itself is filled with monsters.
Children of the night, what music they make. It's alive! It's alive!
Well, hello, all you monster fiends, and thank you for joining us for another deep dive, factoid-filled episode exploring Hollywood's most famous monsters. I am your mistress of ceremony, Sam, and I am joined, as always, by Dan from Bleed and Marvelous. Say hello, Dan.
It's all for you, Damien. Hiya.
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 You haven't done it for 2 weeks.
I know. You got to. I'm just mixing it up, isn't it? Keep you on your toes.
Keep you on your toes, mister. I will never try your. I will never try your accent again. I promise. I'm sorry.
Dick Van Dyke. Yeah.
That is such a coincidence with this movie. Hi everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Monsters Up North podcast. We're going down the religious route. Some might say the most boring one out of the religious movies. I, on the other hand, will disagree. Because I think it's fucking fantastic and I want to bore the shit out of everyone with all my useless knowledge on The Omen. So I'll do the disclaimer and then we're going to crack on open this marvel of a film. So everything discussed in today's episode is our opinions and our opinions alone. If you'd like to discuss anything from today's episode, please come and join us on our Facebook pages. You can come and join us on Discord or the comment section where we can have an open discussion. But what we won't have is anyone coming for us and telling us our opinions are wrong, because we can all agree to disagree in fandom. So let's keep it fun, keep it kind, and keep the toxic behaviour out of nerdism.
Do not be a Richard.
Don't.
No.
Are we getting all posh because we're in kind of a bit of a posh side of movies, I'd say.
We're in a very posh Gregory Peck setting here, so I thought I'd use one's English better, innit? So.
In it. Is it?
Crap.
Don't. No. The Omen is the 1976 supernatural horror directed by Richard Donner and written by David Schultz. It stars Gregory Peck, Lee Remick, David Warner, Harvey Spencer Stevens in his film debut. Who is he? What is he? Should we fear him? Can we stop him? Is he a warning? Is he the beginning of the end? These questions we aim to answer as Monsters of North brings you The Omen. That's a genuine tagline.
That's 400 paragraphs.
Who is he? What? I was tempted to write at the end of it. Who knows?
Because
who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a genuine tagline. So when I said to you earlier, it might not be the tagline that you're referring to, I don't think it was.
No, most of them were approximately a sentence, maybe two at a push, but not 4 paragraphs. Yeah.
Yeah. The Omen. So this is my second time around this year talking about this film, and I am fucking stoked that Dan agreed to do it because this film isn't spectacular and it's not groundbreaking, but for some reason it's stuck with us for quite a few years that I can't stop watching it.
You do get that with certain movies, like you don't know why you do it, you just go back to them because they put you in a place where you're like, comfort.
It is. It shouldn't be, but it is. It's like The Exorcist. The Exorcist makes me feel at home. And it shouldn't, but The Omen does exactly the same. I don't know if it's because they're quite close to each other. And this is kind of like the feel of it.
In years and in like feel.
Mm-hmm. And even like the cinematography of it all is kind of very like similar, especially like the color palettes and everything, apart from the bright greens and but the settings of it is. I have firstly, before we start cracking on into everything, is the one of my favorite scenes, quote that's in this movie. And when I brought it up on the podcast I did before, he wasn't too sure what I was talking about. uh, when the Jews return to Zion and the comet rips the sky and the Holy Roman Empire rises, then you and I must die. From the eternal sea he rises, creating armies either shore, turning man against his brother, till man exists no more. I fucking love that. I love that.
It's very poetic. I mean, is it like a Bible verse, or was it written specifically for this? Or like it feels very.
I didn't answer. I didn't look at that question actually. That's a good one. I didn't look into that part. I
Yeah.
generally thought it was something ripped from the Bible.
I mean, it could be something that was taken from some sort of document of history, or it could be something that some. The problem is with these kind of movies, everything that's said feels like it is straight out of the Bible when it's a religious horror. You think, oh, it's definitely come from the Bible.
Yeah.
And you question it. Yep. Can't eat pork on a Sunday. 100%.
What?
Must be from there. You know, like you can't wear cotton socks because it's against God's will. And you could die and it's a sin. But you know, things like that. It's just like, you know, you take it because it's in the film. You go, yes, that makes sense. Yes, and you don't really.
No, you don't question it.
No,
I never questioned it. I mean, you can question this movie in its entirety if you wish to, because it is. How would you describe The Omen to someone?
The Omen is about a man who loved his wife unconditionally to the point of where he didn't want her to grieve, so he thought he would help.
Mm-hmm.
And in his pursuit to help her and fuel her happiness, he made a grave mistake that ended up.
I mean, a grave mistake is a bit of a fucking understatement. He brought the devil home.
Basically, yeah. Yeah, well, this is the thing. I don't think that kid was exceptionally
evil.
The majority of the stuff were people doing things for him.
Yeah.
It was like he was using telepathy, or he was.
He wasn't there yet. The reason you get Mrs. Baylock is because he's not there yet. He doesn't know who he is. When the scene in the party, he generally has no idea what's going on. He's just there for a party. When Mrs. Baylock comes, she has to then start helping honing in who Damien really is, because there's a whole point to Damien being there in the first place and being with that specific family as well. It's all by design. It's not a coincidence. It's generally all by design, and we'll get into it as the movie goes when we talk about the movie. But yeah, but the little boy Damien, this is his first acting job, and Richard Donner absolutely adored this kid. When he was auditioning for the role of Damien, he told these kids, because they needed the Lee Remick scene where he attacks her. Yeah. That needed to happen. So he had to ask these kids, you need to attack me. And these kids were like, no, can't do this. What was it? Harvey Stevens went in full Wolverine and started slashing at his face, kicked him in the balls, and just started literally went rabid on him. Yeah. And Richard Donner went, "That's my kid. That's my Damien." But he adored this kid. Like, he made sure he was well looked after during this film.
Yeah, and to get a lot of the rises he wanted from him, he would, because he was only 4 or 5 at the time.
Yeah.
What he did was he would call him names on the set behind the camera to get a reaction out of him. And like he'd say stuff like, "Oh, you are a naughty little sod, you're an awful little bugger," because obviously Richard Donner's British. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he was like, and then he'd like either laugh, or he'd cry, or he'd get angry, or like he'd pull the expressions that he wanted him to pull because he knew which strings would wind him up. So he found a good friendship with the 4-year-old pretty quick to know how to manipulate him to get to where he needed him to.
But he really took care of him. He was very caring with him. The most famous scene of the film is the end one, where Damien turns to the camera and smiles. What you don't hear or see is Richard Donner going, "Don't you dare. Don't you dare. You smile, mind, and you laugh." And that's when you get that cheeky little smile at the end. He didn't know, and he loved it. That's not how it was meant to go.
No,
But he absolutely loved the fact that he smiled. And he's smiling because he's trying not to laugh at Richard Donner.
yeah. So you get that really creepy kid, which people attribute to a creepy kid grin, whereas for me, I've seen a lot more creepier than that over the years, you know. But
I mean, the Babadook's prime example of awful, horrible kid.
yeah, that kid can get flushed down the toilet for all I care. Yeah.
Go back in the seat.
Well, a lot of people don't know, but this wasn't the original name for this movie. It had two alternatives prior.
I know one of them.
When I found them out, I was like, I beg your pardon.
I know one of them.
Was supposed to be the Antichrist. That was what the first name of the movie was. And then they
That makes sense.
it. Well, yeah, I mean, it does, doesn't it? I mean, obviously that
it's a bit on the nose, but
I think that went on to be a movie with Willem Dafoe, didn't it? Antichrist. That was
shit. Okay.
But then they changed it, and I can see where they were going, but it's not the focus of the entire film, so it seemed a bit redundant to call it this. But the birthmark. So I mean, that's a choice in itself. I mean,
that is a terrible choice. When I read that, I went, no, I don't know if it's because it's so it's such an iconic name now.
Yeah.
And maybe the Antichrist would have worked because we wouldn't have known any different. And it is very on the nose. But the
it just doesn't have the same.
Je ne sais quoi.
Yeah, that kind of like no, I don't like it. It's not concise and it's not short. You know, I think the birthmark it's just a lot.
Oh yeah, well, talking of the cast, Gregory Peck,
yes,
legendary actor, absolutely star of this day. Would you say it's a silver screen? I can't remember.
Oh God, yeah, he was so famous up and just because he'd retired 3 years before this after the tragedy, and then he came back just to do this, didn't he? So
and that tragedy is what brought him to this film. He retired, he was done with acting, he was done with the movies, and this kind of brought him back because he needed he needed somewhere to put his grief.
Yeah, actors they process through working, they process through different ways to normal people because they have to pretend to be so many people. It must be very, very confusing.
Yeah.
If you don't know who you are.
Exactly. And he lost his own son in 1975, and it was saying he needed somewhere to process that grief. My cats have just burst through the door. I knew it wouldn't take him very long. So yeah, he needed somewhere to process that grief, and being this person who carries so much, I feel so much for this character throughout this whole film because he carries the weight of the world on his shoulders up until the day his wife, even when his wife dies, she has no idea what he did for her.
Yeah.
And he carried it all.
Yeah.
And the decisions that he had to make were not the easy ones. And to know that he's gone to know that he's gone through that himself, never in the same kind of breath as what he had done in The Omen, but to know that he'd gone through some form of grief himself, it just makes his performance so much more powerful, so much more important as well.
Yeah, because there was the scene towards the end where he gets the phone call from the hospital about what happens with his wife. And he had a big stand-up row with Richard Donner over it because he thought that a man in his position would be throwing things and screaming and tearing everything up. And Richard was like, no, I want you to just sit there. I want you to sit there and process it. And I don't want to see you screaming and get angry. I want to see a man who has taken the news and is trying to process it and doesn't know what he's doing. And anyway, they had a big old row, and Gregory Peck turned around and went, I disagree with you, but as you're the director, I don't have a choice. So he did it his way. And then he went and watched the Daily and was like, I concede, you were right. and that was it. And He did have a caveat though, Gregory Peck, in his contract, which I read. He only would allow them to do full face shots if they were very close because he didn't want a double chin in his pictures. So he said that under no circumstances, if they were to do a close up, was it to stop here. Yeah. They had to stop here to hide his double chin.
It's why he wears turtlenecks throughout the whole film, because he doesn't want to.
Yeah.
He doesn't want his double chin showing. I get what he means.
Yeah.
The reason my camera is at a dodgy angle is because I like the fact that my chins don't show.
And me, you get what you get. You're lucky this camera works on this computer. That's all I'm saying. So
I love that. We would talk. We made a joke earlier about Dick Van Dyke. Do you know why we made a joke?
Yes, I do.
Step in time, step in time.
Oh, Mary.
Be careful, because we could just reenact Mary Poppins right now.
I'm the lily, I'm the lie, I'm the lily, I'm the lie.
There's a reason for all this, by the way. We're not just bringing Dick Van Dyke in for the shits and giggles. He was offered the role of the senator.
Yes, he was.
And I can't think of what the senator's name was.
No.
Robert Thorn. Gosh, how would I not forget that? Yeah, he was offered the role of Robert Thorn, and he turned it down.
Do you know who else was offered the role of Robert Thorn?
No, it's one thing I didn't go and look into.
Well, I only know one other person, and it's allegedly, because they don't have concrete on this one. But everybody's favourite movie, Jaws, had a certain Roy Schneider.
Ooh.
And they offered it allegedly to Roy Schneider to come and play Robert Thorn. And I can see he's very thinking man.
Yeah.
You know, Roy. So I can't say it wouldn't have worked, but I feel Gregory has this he has an air of royalty, he has an air of majesty about him. He's very well seasoned. Not that Roy isn't, but you can see it from the top of his head to his tiptoes. You know, he has this way about him. And Roy doesn't have that same way, and I don't know if it would have played out as well, because he's the senator and he's very official and he's very put together, and Gregory had that sort of thing down to a T before he even had to play this part.
He reminds me so much of Cary Grant.
Mm-hmm.
There's something, and I think it's the elegance of him, because Cary Grant was so elegant and a professional to his core, and I feel like that's what you get from Gregory Peck. Like you'll not get actors like him again. No,
I don't think in this day and age there are many actors out there like they used to be. And I'm not talking about the misogyny or the overpayment or any of that shit before anybody comes at me for all that, but I honestly do think that they have a certain air and grace and a way they put themselves. I mean, the only person that I know that can sort of fall into that category, but he's gone past that into miserable old fella, is Harrison Ford. He is very well put together. He knows when to speak and he knows what to say at the right times. It's just he can't be bothered. And
whether or not you can understand him is the other thing.
He is not interested in what you have to say. No. He's just there because they're making him do it. So
the best thing I saw with Harrison Ford was being interviewed by Alison Hannigan.
Is with the one where they were all wetting themselves, him with and the Blade
Ryan Gosling, and that I think that was the first time I ever saw him put his shields down and go, do you know what? Fuck this. Because Alison Hammond, that's it. Yeah. And she because she broke them. Yeah. It's when she offered them a drink, and then she's like, no, I haven't seen it. Yeah. And he was like, all right, okay, let's go.
They're proper snorting and everything, like proper belly laughing.
It's one of my favourite moments.
Everybody really relaxed on that interview. That's the kind of interviewer I would like to be. Just get everybody into that really nice place. But yeah, this film is shocking in the sense of how much it actually cost to make. Really, in 1976, it cost 2.8 million to make this movie. I don't know what the conversion is because I didn't get around to doing it. However, the box office, it took 60.9 million at the box office
in the 70s.
In 1976, 60.9. So that would be somewhere in the 500-600 million category. I mean, on inflation. But Gregory Peck, when he took his role, he took it at a very significant loss. He took a massive pay cut from what he was usually being paid. I think he had the equivalent of $250,000, which at the time was a lot less. He was very highly paid, and he knew he was coming out of retirement, so he knew he'd lost his worth, so to speak.
His name's not there anymore.
Yeah, so he said, right, okay, I'll do it, but I will do it if I take a percentage, a guaranteed 10% of the box office. So this film ended up being his biggest grossing film he ever got paid for.
Well done.
Ever. And he knew the film would be good, but he wasn't anticipating 60.9 million. And he got 10% of that.
Well done. Well done.
It kept his family going for a very long time, that one.
Ever since we did we did Dracula, and I learned a bit more about Lugosi and what he gave up in respects to what other people had got. It makes me love the fact when people do take a percentage of the movie, because at least it guarantees them something, and it's you're not getting shafted like what Bela did in Dracula.
Because he just wanted to be doing something else, but
the problem is with Bela, he was just already getting into a Bela arc thing, but he wanted to work, and he wanted to be that character, and probably in his head money didn't matter, but it did, because it set him up for a lifetime of people taking advantage of him. And I'm so glad that Gregory Peck did that. This movie comes with a tag that a lot of movies of this nature kind of does: cursed.
Yes. Before we go into that bit, they actually did something with the promo on this movie that wasn't really well known at the time. They spent double the initial budget of the movie on advertising. So bear in mind, 2.8 million to cost to make the film. They spent 5.6 on advertising for this film. I mean, what on earth do you spend 5.6 million advertising on?
I mean, if you've not got Gregory Peck standing with a Pickard sign somewhere, then I can't give you an answer. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, obviously billboard signs, newspaper ads, maybe TV commercials, like, because they used to do that in America, didn't they? They put on.
Yeah, not here though. Like, we would never have gotten an advert for this.
They're not like movie trailers we have today. They were like quick things, and you never got to see scenes out of the films. They were all like, "You
Bring
must
that back.
see this. Worst film ever. This is horrific." You know, very like, they were like, and then they'd have the logo of the film and it'd be moving in and out, or if it was a horror, someone would chop it with an axe or something like that.
Yeah, critics are calling this a spectacular.
Yeah, so you never get an actual like read of like what's going on in the film, unfortunately, like we do now, where they spoil every freaking thing before you even go and see it. So continue.
Yeah, the curse. So the curse is it. The only thing I got off it was obviously Gregory Peck's reasoning for coming here. I don't think you can class that as part of the curse, because the film hadn't even been made yet.
No.
But two people, Gregory Peck and David Schultz, both fell victim to, and I'm going to use air quotes, the curse, because they both took planes, separate planes, and both were hit by lightning. Rottweilers hired for the film attacked their trainers. I mean, the Rottweilers. The hotel which Richard Donner was staying at was bombed by the IRA. He was also hit by a car. And oh my gosh. Gregory Peck cancelled another flight to Israel. The plane he would have chartered crashed, killing everyone on board.
And then there was the zookeeper at the safari park that was killed in the lion area, which happened the day after filming the baboon scene. And how they did that baboon scene was that they didn't feed the baboons the day before.
Fantastic. You're dealing with creatures who can literally rip your face off.
And they are the most violent, horrible things. I mean, when I was a kid, we used to have Windsor Safari Park, right? And it wasn't very far. It was about 40 minutes, half an hour from where we lived. So it was like you went to Windsor Safari Park and you went through the monkey enclosure in your car. You came out with no wiper blades, no wing mirrors. They ripped everything off you by the time you'd gone through. And they see 50, 60 cars a day. So they must have just
Oh.
had a graveyard for these, like, of all these bits and pieces. But yeah, they are horrible, horrible animals in that scene. They're just
Well, the cursor. I'm starting to question my air quotes now after reading this. On the day of the shoot, several principal members of the crew survived a head-on car crash. The jinx persisted well after post-production when special effects artist John Richardson was injured and his girlfriend in an accident on the set of A Bridge Too Far.
Yeah.
I'm starting to question this whole curse thing now. Maybe it's a thing.
He was actually responsible for the scene of David Warner's death scene, and it literally mirrored his girlfriend's or assistant's, whatever she was, death. So what happened to David Warner happened to her.
I'm going to take my air quotes back. Even though Richard Donner does swear by and was feared this curse, he actually got the greatest success out of this film, because if he didn't do well on this film, he wouldn't have gone on to do The Goonies.
Yep.
And he wouldn't have gone on to do Superman. And they were the two biggest movies he ever did.
Scrooged, Tales of the Crypt, From the Crypt even. The guy has got a history of pulling out some crackers, and he just waits, boom, then he does it. I mean, he knew how to work with kids so well after obviously working with Harvey. He then goes on and does The Goonies 10 years later.
Yeah. He takes that what he learns with the kid into that movie, because you do not hear a bad word about Richard Donner from any of them.
No.
Which is quite rare when you're working with a lot of children. Like, tempers have got it, like the kids, do you know what I mean? And you know as an adult how annoyed you can get by a child. And
especially when you're looking at the kids that you did have on set, when you've got someone like Sean Austin, who was from royalty, you know, he's a Clooney and Gomez Adams kid, you know.
He's Nepo child through and through.
Yeah, and then you've also got Josh Brolin, who's James Brolin's, son, and he's Barbara Streisand's stepson. So, you got Nepo babies on that set that would have made it could have made it incredibly difficult if they were divas. I mean, I don't know if they were or not. I never they have been.
It's do you know what? Out of the two people you mentioned there, if I was to say hardworking Nepo babies, it's them two. Josh Brolin and Barbara Streisand, Brolin gave him his name.
Yeah.
He didn't put the foot in front of the door. Yeah. That's all.
But the name is enough.
Yeah. So. And he's worked hard. He's made very good fucking choices in his career.
Oh, he made stinkers though, because he ended up dying out for a while because he got so addicted to drugs. But then he came back for Planet Terror because Quentin Tarantino gave him a break.
Mm-hmm. He's got a thing of doing that.
He took a chance on him, and he was like, right, come on, you can get yourself. That's why he looks, when people question what Brolin looks like in that movie, and it's like, yeah, the guy was coming out of rehab. He was getting him shit together. And so, the big scruffy beard and the
I think
crazy hair.
Absolutely beautiful. He does credit his rehabilitation to his stepmother.
Babs.
Mm-hmm. He has a very if you think like Barbara Streisand's your stepmom, you would kind of think there might be a little bit of, because I always imagine her as a bit of a diva.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
But I mean, when my mum's read her autobiography, she couldn't be anything further from it. She loves to tell you how the inside of everything works, but she also loves to tell you how the dynamic of her family work. And she went, they are very close. And I went, I know. I've listened to Josh Brolin gush about her. That we've gone on right one, haven't we? Do you know what's so funny as well? I was watching the South Park, we're rewatching South Park, and the Barbara Streisand came on last night. I'd never seen it before, so I was like, oh, it was so funny. It's the guy constantly singing, "Here comes Barbara Streisand."
I just every time someone mentions Barbara Streisand, I hear "Don't Rain on My Parade." And, you know,
Yeah.
or
Oh
Robin
God.
Williams doing his impression of Fiddler on the Roof of her in like, let's not go there. But yeah,
Yeah, so Richard Donner, he's just for all he had all of this catastrophe going on around him, this movie brought him so much success.
yeah,
So much.
doing pretty much just TV movies at that point. When you look at TV movies, TV series, like he did have a good TV career under his belt prior to making The Omen, but this was a bit of a chance in the respect of that he was riding on the coattails, and he openly admits it. Everybody that made a religious horror after The Exorcist came out was riding on the coattails, riding on the wave, hoping that they could recreate something very similar.
Yeah.
This was the lucky one. This was the one that came out through, what, 2 years later, because it was 73, 74, Exorcist, so this was 76. So yeah, and they hit it right. It was just dying out. People were trying, and these movies just weren't landing. They weren't getting picked up, and Gregory Peck was probably the turning point. To get him was probably what actually got them.
Was gold. It was gold. It was absolute gold. And also, I know people, and I've heard a few people say, and I do kind of get where they're coming from in a way, that this movie can come across a bit boring, but to me, it has one of the most interesting and fascinating stories. If we start to go through the film, this movie is essentially a conspiracy theory movie. For all it has religious aspects to it, it is a conspiracy theory movie. The idea of it all is that they need to get the Antichrist. The Antichrist is being born.
Yes.
And they need, as in this Church of Satan or whoever, I don't know if they've got their own little section of it or whatever. But they need to get the Antichrist into high political place. They don't want it to be the White House. That's too much. They need somewhere with a political background and someone who has some sway. And they aim at Gregory Peck because he is the ambassador to the UK and he's also an American citizen. That means his ties in two places. The reason they want the Antichrist, therefore, is because when he rises, and he will, the church can then turn round and say, fucking told you so. It was the church was working together with the Satanists who had the Antichrist, and it was the church who would then turn around and say, fucking told you he's coming.
I will go into this one right now. I absolutely disliked the first Omen that came out recently. Was it the first?
Yeah. And I get why, because it changed a lot of law.
But I will say it did help you in a way wrap your head around how we got here, because they're a little bit more, there's not a lot of exposition, but it focuses more on the church's stance, which you don't really have any idea what the bloody hell the church is doing till sort of later on in the movie. You see burnt bloody vicars in this one, shish kebabbed vicars. It gets really confusing. There's vicars all over the place.
There's a lot of them, and Father Brennan, who is a character in this movie and also in the first Omen, played by the amazing Chris Finch. Finchy, bloody good rep. I genuinely don't know what the actor's name is. I just know he's Chris Finch from the UK Office, and he's going to be playing Galactus in the upcoming Fantastic Four movie for Marvel, which is fantastic because he's a brilliant British actor. But he will always be Chris Finch. Chris Finch, read a book a week.
I'm googling this shit.
But yeah, he plays Father Brennan. And Father Brennan he's not a nice guy. he is part of this whole conspiracy. He was part of the church who was about to turn around and, give you the middle finger and tell you the Antichrist is real.
Yeah. Yeah, he's he's the one that confused me the most in this film with respect to his alliances. And did he have a mental break? Did he have a moment of clarity? I don't know what. Did he have a come to Jesus moment? Why all of a sudden was he so eager to palm the child off on old Pecky Boy, and then all of a sudden be like, no, he's the evil child of death?
He
You know?
knew this was, if you go from the first Omen and what they're telling you, he knew this was going to happen. He knew that this was going to take place, and he knew the outcome. If he had a conscience, which he soon fucking gathers halfway through this film, he could have pulled the plug on this and allowed Gregory Peck and his wife to walk out with their boy, because they killed their boy.
Yeah.
And it's something it's not alluded to at the beginning of the film. You genuinely think this kid has died of natural causes, and he didn't.
Nope.
They killed him, just for clarity, just in case he didn't know.
Which the weird thing is, you think they would just give him to another family, because that's what they're doing.
What would be the exactly. That would be the fucking sensible thing to do. Like, there's no need to kill a kid. Just take him away. Just be gone.
Yeah.
And then swap him out. But yeah, it's this whole plot to get the Antichrist with he's a diplomat, sorry, American diplomat, with Robert Thorn and his family. It's all down to the whole big church conspiracy.
Yeah, so for me, I don't really see this much as a religious kind of movie, although I know it has connotations. For me, this is, I would say it is in fact a love story, this film. It's because it is the love for the one man's love for his wife.
Yeah.
That kickstarted an entire chain of events that he had no idea or control over. And he loved that child just like it was his own. He did everything just like it was his own. And then
even when he knew, when he had it confirmed, he still couldn't bring himself to do it because it wasn't his wife he was thinking of in that moment, which is the forefront of everything that Robert Thorne has done, is been for his wife.
Yeah.
It was his son that he was holding in the end, the child that he raised from the day he got swapped out.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really understand why he went and got a replacement kid. I mean, you couldn't just grieve with your child. How much convincing must have that taken from someone at the hospital to go, there's a kid there, it's just been born, you can give it to your wife and she'll never know. Like how much, you don't see any of that convincing. So
no.
for you to be that swept away with your grief, that you're not thinking clearly enough, to you've been manipulated into being given a child to pass off as your own.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would have liked a bit more kind of exposition prior to that happening. They just went straight in at this grieving man with all this dialogue going on of him. I think it's supposed to be of him thinking about what was happening, and so you were hearing like all the voices in the conversation
around him.
I just felt like, because you missed not the death of their baby, but it was just like, how would you get a man in a car, like, especially a man? I don't mean this with disrespect. The mother, you can understand a grieving mother, they do anything, right? Anything. But a father is a different take on it for me, because I feel like he's not doing it for the baby. The baby is a secondary sort of tier to this, that at the time the baby was the means to his wife being happy,
and now that's been taken away,
and all he cares about is her happiness, not about the baby. So it could have been a baby.
It could have. Honestly, it's such a testament to Robert Thorne's character, the decision that he made, in my opinion anyway, and people might say it completely different, but for me it is a testament that he put her first. How many people want to be put first, and he did that. Like, I'm gonna say my husband doesn't, because he fucking does, because got any other choice, really. I need a lot of taking care of. But he really does put her at the forefront, and it's always her at the forefront until that last moment. And then he's thinking of his son. He's not thinking of the consequences of what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Just to what's going to happen to his son. So for 5 glorious years, they raise this child as it's their own. She has absolutely no idea that that is not her boy, and everything's hunky dory. And they move to London.
And she gets in this big stately home, and they set up shop there, and they become very established, and it's very lovely. It's a lovely story. You know, you're like, okay, that's the dream life, isn't it? You know, everything you've ever wanted, and
It's
you don't
perfect.
need anything. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
And then out of nowhere, this bit with the nanny happens.
Yeah.
You don't see it coming. There's no signs. There's no
warning.
glint in his eyes. So I can understand when seeing this for the first time, it was probably a big shock to people. Unfortunately, it didn't work on me. I've got to be honest. I just went, what the bleeding hell has she done that for you? Because by the time I even saw it, I think I must have been in my mid to late teens the first time I saw this one, just purely because it was something that never sat on my radar. Like I was never really, I knew of Damien, and I knew of 666, and I knew Damien was the first child, mainly because of Only Fools and Horses ripped the shit out of it with his kid called Damien, and how it had a birthmark on the back of its head, and they reckoned it said 666 on the back of his head. So it was an ongoing joke. Damien has always been the evil kid. So any kid that was called Damien at school used to get fucking roasted.
It's not a great name to go with, mind. It doesn't hold up very well with some people. I was going to say so. Yeah, I only watched this. It was only a few years ago for the first time. There was a moment where I was going through famous horrors that I'd not seen, because you know what I've been like. I can't say that now because I've branched out into so much. But I stuck with like this like Rolodex of my movies. This is my horror. This is where I stay. This is where I'm comfortable with. And I decided to kind of go out of that. And it was only the likes of like Rosemary's Baby and movies like that, like famous horrors that like have a bit of commercialness to them. I didn't go to anything extreme. And The Omen was one of them. And it's the one movie out of the whole bunch that I watch that I watch at least once every 6 months, if not sooner, because it's such a, I don't know, I do get something from it every time I watch it.
Did you know that the nanny that pledged her allegiance to Damien, our Father, Lord, and Satan, the woman who played her was actually called Holly Palance. Now that surname might ring a bell because Jack Palance was a very, very famous American actor, and Jack Palance, if I'm right, was the old dude in City Slickers.
Shut up.
And that was his daughter that played the nanny. And he was saying that when because Jack Palance actually narrated the Omen documentary called Legacy, and he was talking about how it really messed up his daughter, that scene. She it was like unexpected aftermath. She didn't really act again after that, because for her it was so extreme not what she physically had to do as an actress, because obviously stunt person took the place of a lot of it, but it was just the premise of having to stand up there and declare the way she did. It's all for you, Damien.
Oh, do you know the sad part is Damien didn't have a fucking clue.
He didn't know what that was about.
This is when Damien's power starts to shine out, and his minions basically are pledging their allegiance to him. And this is where the acting out starts. So after the birthday party is the scene with the chimps, where they go absolutely batshit crazy, and it's just it's not put down to him at all, because he's not. It's not like when it happens in the car.
No,
when he full on attacks her.
Yeah, I think what had happened to that though, it hadn't Mrs. Baylock had just come on the scene after the nanny had topped herself, and she was being very I can do anything, but she was kind of cold, but not too cold to start. You know, you knew there was something fucky with her, but you were like, okay, she's very put together, but nannies kind of are falling in the really lovely, chubby, cuddly nanny, or you've got the matronly type nanny. And I thought she just fell into that kind of category, you know, the more like you will do as your parents request.
Oh, Baylock.
But Baylock is very she played Billy Whitelaw. I tell you, those crazy eyes that woman gave in this film, I adored her in this film. There was something about her that she just gave off, because you've seen her in so many things. Billy Whitelaw is an incredibly renowned British actress. You once you see her face, you know you've seen her in thousands.
You've seen it, yeah.
But yeah, she apparently she was supposed to be, when she auditioned, Mrs. Baylock was going to be an Irish nanny. She was supposed to be like an Irish, oh lovely, like
she was meant to be lovely. She was meant to be caring and nurturing,
and she went having it. She walked in and she did her entire audition cold, matronly, very stern, and Richard was like, she's onto something here. I kind of like this, because it's not a trope at that point. So
but you want to rear the son of the devil. You're not going to do it with kindness and love. That's not where it's going to come from. But she wasn't cruel.
No, but she was stern. The way she was so stern with Damien's mum, at the point of where Damien's mum's going, can you get Damien ready for church? And she's like, don't you think he's too young to get indoctrinated, and he doesn't need to go there, and blah blah blah, whatever she was trying to say. She was like, I don't believe he should go, and as the nanny, it was incredibly kind of like
ballsy.
Yeah, because you don't talk back to the mother of the whilst. See, that's a very strange dynamic to me as someone who's never been brought up with a nanny. I've been brought up with grandparents and family and
grandparents, aunties, yeah.
Yeah, so nanny is a luxury that is probably given to a very small percentage of people.
Not us.
So for that point, it's that you're supposed to have a very, very good close relationship with your nanny, because they do take the place of the motherly.
They become a second mom.
Yeah, so I mean, there is that whole thing, but you don't get that from Baylock when she's not with Damien. No. She looks after Damien. She cares for Damien, because she's got his best interests at heart when she's literally saying to her, he doesn't need to go to church. He doesn't need to go to church. And she's like, getting ready. He's going. And like,
my son, I'm telling you now, get him down the fucking stairs.
And then what happens? The kid has a full-on panic attack, absolute meltdown, because they're trying to get him into the church. He wasn't even inside it. He was literally in the car outside the church.
It's one of my favorite scenes, is because it's so calm. And it's not expected what's going to happen next, and he doesn't even do it while they're on the long road. He waits until his eye can actually see the building he's going into, and then he freaks out. And I love that scene.
But do you think at that point, that's when he knows? I mean, as a 4 or 5 year old, you don't have a lot of concept of much, but like, he must have known that he was different at that point, because that was his switching point as an actor in this as well. Like, the route that Damien starts to take, he becomes very, not devious, but he becomes more understanding of what's going on, whereas you don't kind of get that up until that point. So I think Baylock is obviously giving him a lot of information off screen, and explaining to him certen things. And
she's whispering, she's feeling, she's but she's not making it to the point where she's overdriven with all of this knowledge and information about the person who he's going to be. Like, he's the fucking Antichrist. She's been very careful and very slowly divulging what she needs to, and this is Damien's breaking point. This is where it starts to go tits up, and this is where Father fucking Brennan starts to get a conscience.
Yeah, see, when he comes in and he starts spouting off like an absolute loon to Gregory Peck in the office, I'm like, how do you expect him to take you seriously? You're not making any sense.
Calm down. take a breath.
You're getting angry, and the guy's done nothing but exactly what you told him to do the day you gave him the baby. So, what the hell?
Exactly. And this man who he doesn't know him. He genuinely doesn't know him as a person. Comes in and tells him his son is not human. Now, for 5 years, he has had this child where nothing up until recently has gone wrong.
Yeah.
And he's trying to tell him his child's not human. I'd have put him through the fucking window.
I'll be like, well, what is he then? A horse? A cat? Gives a clue. You know, like I think the problem that you have is in the 70s compared to the 2020s that we're in now, the need to go to church and the need for religious forgiveness, religious piousness to live the way that the average family was supposed to live by the laws of just the laws, the made up laws. You get married, you have a baby, you attend church every Sunday, and that's just what good families do. And that's what I believe that this unit was supposed to be like. And it was just standard. So when Damien no longer wanted to go to church, it became a thing that made question to whether they were a good family or not, because they couldn't get Damien into the church. It was no longer this thing that they were.
Well, yeah, it puts doubt in it because there will be. They're American at the end of the day, and
by and large are a larger religious country
exactly
than
what we are exactly. But Catherine is in the midst of all this is pregnant.
Yes,
and Father Brennan tells him that he basically warns him that Damien will kill your child.
Yes.
And Catherine, because of everything that's going on with Damien, Catherine then says she wants to get a shishmoshin.
Yes. Which is understandable and very controversial for 1976, may I add.
Incredibly. But she does it on the basis of, I can't cope with this child.
Yeah.
And look at how, if he's turning out this way, it's because something we did. They blame it. She blames herself instantly that it's her fault this kid's. And so in her eyes, if this is what's happening with this kid and this is what I'm doing to this child, then this is what's going to happen to my unborn child. I don't want any part of that. And he has to try and convince her because he knows that's not her kid. That's not her DNA. Whatever is going on with him, that has nothing to do with her. So he has to convince her not to do it because of the knowledge. Like, he carries so much in this film. And she doesn't really have a choice in the matter because Damien ends up hurting her to where she miscarries.
Not laughing at the miscarriage, it's just the way she gets hurt in this bit, which is the most controversial scene for people who want to poke holes in this movie. They automatically go straight to this scene. It's a horrible subject, the whole Damien just not even just your kid kind of putting you in a situation where you lose your child, but the fact that they were tackling these subjects in 1976 so openly as well, which was
crazy.
Not something that was done at the time, put it that way. And if I'm right, Damien's on like a bloody
he's doing like a Danny Torrance and he's on
he's on a shining trike, isn't he?
Yeah.
And does he like she's doing something with the plants, isn't she?
The rubber plants. So I think she's dusting them. So she's on a step ladder and she there's the fishbowl which is knocked. His tricycle knocks the fishbowl, which then lands onto her, which then pushes her off the side, and she grabs the banister. Now, this is being directly linked to The Exorcist, this scene.
Right.
And it's not for any other reason than the way it was shot. So we all know, because we did the Exorcist review when we did Rosara, that the hell that Ellen Bernstein went through when she was physically pulled from one end of a room to another and she ended up breaking her back. Richard Donner takes that idea and says, you will fall from that balcony. We are going full Friedrich. We are well, you're gonna do this, and she did it, and she fucking hurt herself.
How
But
though? Because that is something completely different you end up seeing.
because Richard Donner has a conscience,
Right.
and he ran down and he was so sorry, sobbing, and I am like incredibly nothing that Friedrich would ever have done. He would never have admitted that he was in the wrong. Richard Donner instantly went down, apologized, give her some time off. She was like she was hurt, but she wasn't broken back hurt.
Yeah.
And he reshot it to where stunt doubles, harness, everything, safety precautions to the max could be put in place, and that's why you get that scene as opposed to the one where she actually fell, because it wouldn't
Yeah.
have looked like it did.
I think the problem with this scene is it's just so out of place the way they edited it. The gist of it is, if you've ever seen someone falling in slow motion but in actual real time at the same time, that's what this is like. I
It's an
can't put
optical
it,
illusion.
yeah, I cannot put it any better than that. It's like she's falling in slow motion, her whole body's moving very, very slowly, but
Hmm.
it's happening in real time at the same time.
It's
And you're
a
like,
Hitchcock method.
yeah, but see, now it works in a Hitchcock movie. In this, it didn't because there was not the ominous
There's not
foreboding.
but there's not enough room. So in a Hitchcock movement, you literally someone is falling from a top of the building to the bottom of it. So the movement of them lying on the back of something and wheeling their arms around, there's a lot of chance for you to get a lot of movement in there, get the idea of the fact that they're going to hit that floor.
Yeah,
She doesn't have a lot of room to go from there to there. So it
it's
does
this.
look weird.
Ah,
Yeah. It's classed as an optical illusion in order to make it look like she has fallen to the floor when in actual fact she never did.
if you are a seasoned moviegoer and you watch this film and you get to this point, it's about 50, 51 minutes in, round there, give or take, and it just takes you out of the film. And I don't know why. I think, well, I do know why. It's ridiculous, but it just takes you
I
out
get
of
that.
the film, I think. But
Yeah.
did you know the fishbowl?
Mm.
When you look down on the floor, there's lots of goldfish laying there, and they're actually sardines they painted orange.
Oh dear.
He refused to kill any live goldfish, Richard, for the sake of making the shot. So he put a load of dead sardines
Well done.
that he painted orange in the fishbowl.
Well done. He's got to remember he has a child on set as well.
That's the
You
thing,
can't you can't have real life fish flailing around and this child getting to see that. But well done, Richard Donner. While I can't remember because it's late and I've done 10 hours of work today and it's a miracle I'm even talking right now. Um does Brennan die before or after we meet Keith, who's David Warner?
Keith's been in it since the birthday party. So
He's the photographer
yeah.
at the birthday party.
Then
That's
he's
right.
at the US embassy because Father Brennan comes out and he takes a photo of him and he starts looking at all the photos with that line.
The line going
Do they
down the
ever
middle.
explain
That's
what the
right.
line is? Because he just says all the time, "There's this line. You can see it here. You can see it here. You can see it." But it's like,
It's the spike that goes through him.
right? Okay, I get that now because it wasn't. It
It's
wasn't one of the-
foreshadowing the spike that's gonna right through
But
him.
see, did they show a photo of David Warner with?
There was something that caught his eye
Yeah,
because he saw it himself. So there was something that caught his eye with his head, but I
yeah,
don't think he says it out loud because then that makes it too real.
yeah.
But yeah, the foreshadowing of Brennan's death is seen through the photographs because the line that goes through is when the steeple comes down
And
and
it
pins
goes,
him. It
yeah,
literally pins him to the.
through his neck into the floor. But I will
Mhm.
say he had plenty of time to run away. So the man was an idiot because he took
It
that
was such one of those moments, wasn't it? He deserved it. Um, he flat out deserved it. They tried to make him a sympathetic character in the first Omen, and no, he's not. He's a bastard.
I
It's
think, yeah,
he
I
was
think that's
part. He was
probably,
part of it.
yeah, I think that's probably something that they were trying to establish. He was a good man until he got corrupted by the devil. Mm.
But no, because he was in the fucking church. He was part of the church's conspiracy, not the. This is why it gets so confusing because it's the church's conspiracy, not the Satanists. They
no,
just provided the Antichrist.
yeah, but I think that by association, it technically invalidates any kind of holy, morally
Mm,
high ground, moral high ground that he may well have had, due to the fact that he was an absolute wallop.
yeah.
I was like, dude, you become a human shish kebab. You have plenty of time to run out of the way, but well, it is what it is, and that
Yeah.
happens. And how you can't blame Damien on that one, even though Damien managed to change the weather, had a lightning strike, put the flagpole down through him like a shish kebab, and then we're all to go, oh yeah, that was Damien.
No,
Wasn't.
that's just the actions of your consequences that you've just been struck down. You have literally just been struck down and pinned to the floor. You dick. This is where Keith and Robert kind of team up.
Yeah, and they go
I
back to
wish,
work, don't they?
I really wish they kind of like, this is where they could have really gotten into the nitty gritty of like the plot and everything and kind of like explained it a bit, because that was what the first Omen was really good at, was getting you to know what the fuck was going on.
Yeah, because I feel like, I don't know whether it was through, again, I always say this, there's every chance that when they wrote the original screenplay and they shot it, this had more exposition. It had it had scenes in it where it explained more about what was going on. But when they came to editing, they decided, actually, no, we'll leave this out for mystery. We'll leave this out because it's too long. We'll leave this out because it doesn't make sense. But to someone outside who's not been living and breathing and eating that movie for the best part of 6 months to a year, it probably helped them. That one of those scenes that they got rid of would have helped them understand situations a bit more. So I don't know whether it was due to editing or something, but it feels like you miss a lump of something between when David and Gregory go to Rome, go to the graveyard, and then everything just sort of falls away from there. You're like,
Yeah. Yeah, you get to see Damien's mother's grave, and he got to see his own baby boy
yes.
who was
They were
there, and
talking about
that's
dog bones at one point being in the thing as well, weren't they? They were talking
yeah.
about animal bones and
But
stuff
this
like
is when he finds out that his son was murdered
that.
because the baby has a shattered skull.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like the moment where Robert realizes, shit, what have I getting myself into? But they get chased out by a pack of Rottweilers. Rottweilers is obviously the dog of the devil.
I don't know how, because can we just take a second, for the very reason that on site they had hell on with these dogs because they just wanted to lick everybody to death.
Yeah, because they
These
are the
dogs
most
did
cuddly things in the world.
these they
Rottweilers
have,
are the best.
yeah. Apart from that one exception with the cursed movie situation, where
Oh yeah.
one of them just was just not a happy bunny. They had a hell on trying to get the dogs to be aggressive, like, well, not aggressive, but give off that, when they're tugging at their
Grrr.
clothes and biting them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That took a long time to film because the dogs just didn't want to do it. They were too busy
No,
trying to jump and lick them to death rather
they
than
just
like,
wanted to play. I remember in the 90s when, I don't know if you can remember this at all, but there was so much on the news about Rottweilers and
yeah.
Dobermans
Oh,
being
it's a
like the most
every
evil, yeah, being like the most evil breeds in the world. Be careful of them; they'll get you, they'll attack you. And there was two Dobermans, fucking beautiful dogs, were on my way to school, and I froze in fear that these dogs were going to come and get me, because honestly, it's all I heard was Dobermans and Rottweilers, and for a lot of years. I'm not scared of dogs, and I'll never understand people who are scared of dogs. And I really don't like parents who put their fears of dogs onto kids. It annoys the shit out of us. Um, but I understand breeds more now,
yeah.
so I understand that it can come down to the breeder, not the breed. And I have such a love for Dobermans. My mum's next door neighbour has Pinsters.
Yeah.
They are a smaller version than a Doberman. The colours on them dogs, that black, and I'm talking black. Like, my black cat isn't black. He's very, 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 very dark brown, but he looks black.
Yeah.
There's certain lights you can see the brown in him, and you can see like the little brown shadow on his paw. But oh my god, they're absolutely beautiful. This is where Robert gets more information about Damien, and he he rings Catherine straight away, get the fuck out of the house.
Or
Just get the fuck
is
out.
she in the hospital? No, she's in the hospital still at that point. She's all plastered up, isn't she? She's in a body.
Yes, no, he doesn't say leave that. He doesn't say leave the house. He says get the fuck out of London.
Yeah, and he said so and so Tom's coming to pick you up or whoever, and I guess he's some sort of like minion for him for the embassy. And he's like, Tom's coming to pick you up. Get yourself packed. And it's like she laughs him off. She's like, no, well, I can't move. He's like, no, listen to what I'm saying. Pack. And she's still like decrying against him. But what about this and that? And he's like, what did I just tell you, woman? Get out.
Yeah.
And then you see, which again, not Damien, may I add. This is another person acting through through their belief in the situation rather than it being Damien. You see old Mrs. Brennan in the background or whatever her name is, and Baylock, that's it, with her scary eyes, and you see her just charge at Mrs. Thorn, don't you? You just see her go for her.
Yeah.
And then nothing.
Yeets her straight out the window. It's been a long time since a yeet's been in here.
She proper yeets. She yeets through the back end of the ambulance and falls out the door, practically half out the door. That's not a way one would like to expire, thank you.
No, I don't know. I don't feel that. I mean, I'm all right. If someone wants to yeet me out my window, I'm in a bungalow, so I'm not going to go very far.
Firstly, I'd like to know why, because they never tell you why they killed her, because she did nothing but love that child, and she wasn't bad for him.
She was a perfect candidate.
Yeah.
She was the perfect candidate to rear that child, to help Mrs. Baylock could have gotten Catherine on her side. She would have used the love of her son to be able to get her to do what was needed. Because they didn't.
No, and the misconception with a lot of people is that they think that Satanists don't have the ability to love. They don't love anything. They don't understand love, and that's
far from the fucking truth. It's so far from the truth.
They have the same level of love for their deity that Christians and however many denominations of religious faith that they have for theirs. It just so happens that as Christianity is one of the largest organized religions, Satanists are obviously the opposing to Christianity. Therefore, it's such a big thing to have a faction of people that are rising against something so established, so they always think it's bad and they have inabilities and they're incapable of doing anything, blah, blah. But no, it is just a matter of the fact that these people love just as hard as she did, and she wanted to give Damien everything.
Yeah,
both of them did. She killed her. I never.
It doesn't because they could have used that, and I don't know if it was just a means to the end. Just get her so we can take Damien. We can do better with him than what she can. But they could have really used that mother's love to manipulate her into doing their deeds, so it could still hide the fact that because Damien didn't need to come out yet.
Yeah,
it didn't need to come out until later. And I think that happens in 3 properly with Sam Neill. I think I don't know a great deal about the second and third one, but I know his downfall is his arrogance of his ability and who he is.
Yeah, because he'd been brought up to believe that he was special.
And he's not.
No, can we make it very, very clear? He was just Damien in these movies is an idea. He is not supernatural himself. That child has absolutely nothing but a 666 birthmark on the back of his head. What Damien is he is the human
embodiment
of exactly what people need to look at to see if they can reach and touch, it's real. And so they wanted to give people something that's real. I mean, how do we even know that kid was the devil? He wasn't.
We don't know, but this is what the church wanted you to believe.
Exactly.
So in order for it, the whole plan needed to work that he believed it too.
Yeah.
In order for him to make his grand appearance and for the church to then go, come to us. We will save you. We will, we will help you from this. And they would have then used him as a sacrificial
Yeah.
being because they
he's a
didn't
lesson.
need him anymore.
Yeah, he's a lesson.
He's disposable.
Yeah, basically he's there to prove a point. Oh, look, we made this devil human again. You know, we made this God, we made this devil God-fearing. And it's like, well, good luck.
Well
He's
done with that.
human, you know.
Yeah. Well, Robert Thorn and Keith befriend Antichrist specialist, exorcism specialist, and this is where he tells about the 666 in the back of the head.
Who looks like Guillermo del Toro and Peter Jackson had a baby.
And that was the result of it. I totally see what you're saying.
Yeah.
But this is where they find him in Israel, and they give him all the information, the daggers that he needs to use in order to kill Damien. Robert refuses, obviously.
Yeets them out of the way.
Yeah, but Keith is sadly decapitated by a sheet of glass. It's one of my favorite kills. Is Keith's death when it just
David Warner's head spinning.
It's the noise. It's the sheet noise when it goes whoosh. I love that noise. David Warner had many heads taken off his shoulders for this shoot, and the one he took home with him is the one he kept in his divorce to his ex-wife.
Well, see, the thing about David Warner is he did HorrorCon UK, which we sponsor, many times over the years before he passed away. And he's just one of those people, you know, you never get around to, and you always go, yeah, I will, and then it's too late.
Then the inevitable happens, and age catches up with everyone. He will always. I love David Warner in this film. But Supergirl, Supergirl for me.
Honestly,
that's how I always remember him, is in Supergirl.
Helen she was my idol when I was growing up.
Mine was Mia Farrow.
I met Helen, and it was pure chance. We were doing Collectomania, and I think it was like 2017. And I just sold a lunchbox to a bunch of like really famous pro darts players, because Collectomania is a very strange show. You have sports people, you have TV, you have movie. It's very weird, and it was someone like Bobby somebody that I just sold a lunchbox. I was having a chat with his wife, and then I looked up and I saw Helen, Supergirl, who I'd watched the film so many times, I'd worn out the movie. I didn't even know she was there. And I looked at her and I went, and she asked me a question about something on the stand. And I went, yes, Helen, yes. And she just looked at me like kind of shocked, like I knew who she was. She didn't, because she'd got back into acting. I think she ended up she was doing Legends of Tomorrow or one of those many.
She's kind of trying to find her feet back into the world of acting.
But I loved that movie. I've seen it so many times.
It was something that I did used to go back to, and it is Mia Farrow. Like Dolly Dearest, definitely not. Mommy Dearest, which I would dare say is a horror movie in itself, is one of my favorites. I know Alyssa Edwards brought the quotations of Mommy Dearest to the masses, but I've been doing them for so long. Don't fuck with me, fellas. This ain't my first time at the rodeo.
I was gonna say, bitch, you're orange, but
no wire hangers. So David Warner was always like Supergirl for me, but I do love him in this film, and his death scene is just spectacular. It's just it's the fact that it's just
if you look at someone like Richard Donner, who doesn't have a big history of movies which are movies in general, but just anything which is so they are graphic, but they're not graphic, because if you actually look, there's not a lot of blood in the bloodiest.
There's not 1 inch of blood in this.
Yeah, well, Gregory Peck, when he shish kebabs his arm on the
I mean, like head wise, that's a clean cut.
But when you look into it, there's no blood on the wife when she falls. There's no blood on the vicar when he gets shish kebab. There's no blood on the nanny when she hangs herself. There's no blood on David Warner, even though his head gets completely decapitated and separated from his body. There's no blood. That's something that he just saved for the close-ups with Gregory.
Do you not think it's just not needed? Like, it's totally, that scene is totally fine without the fact that it's so gory, and it's just the effect is there. The impact has happened.
That's what it is. It's the shock, not the not gore. It's not there to make you disgusted. It's there to make you completely go, oh God, I was not expecting that.
Exactly.
You know? And it's not about, oh, I wasn't expecting that, but oh my God, you know, it's not about
it's
that.
It's not a. I think we have a sick moment in nearly every episode we've done recently where we've both gone. Bleh. This is when Robert goes home.
Yeah.
And obviously the devastation when his wife's dead and everything, but he looks on Damien's scalp, and sure enough, it's there.
The mark of the devil.
The mark of 666. And just as he has this like moment of shit, Baylock comes out of nowhere and fucking attacks him.
Like a crazy.
Honestly, she's like a fucking banshee at this point, but he gets
biting him.
Yeah.
There was a bit right where he he literally toe punts her across the room, and I was like, I wonder if they'd actually choreographed that bit, or if it was just like, okay, anything goes in the heat of the moment kind of situation, you know, where they have the.
He was defending himself.
He was properly like when she was biting his leg, the way he kicked her off his leg, I was like,
get him, bitch. But he stabs her.
She killed his wife, and then she was trying to kill him. So I don't have an issue with what he did.
Yeah, he balanced the scales there. But yeah, she's dead, and this is where he kind of the moment's come.
Yeah, time to.
And what he's been told, there's enough evidence there in his head that this is what needs to be done. Damien needs to die. And he takes him to a church, which doesn't go down too well. Obviously,
yeah.
And pulls the daggers, but pulls the daggers out, and then Damien does do it's when he's saying, "Don't, Daddy, don't do it," and he's not going. He was never going to. I don't think so. Anyway, right. I think that is a moment of madness, of his grief, of everything that has happened to him, everything that he has had to do, and it was a moment of madness. But it's the realization when he looks at him, he's like, no, I'm not going to do this. And it's unfortunately too late, because the police have come in, and he is in a position where it looks like he is going to stab his child, and he is shot dead. Goodbye, Robert Thorn.
Yeah, I want to ask a question. In 1976, did policemen in the UK carry guns?
You don't carry them today.
We are. I got very confused when I saw that happen, because I was like, hang on a minute, that wouldn't have happened. You know, I mean, okay, I know the whole devil situation probably wouldn't have happened, but you know, when you just sitting there going, well, that seemed quite, as a British person watching it, it seemed off that they.
Yeah, no, because we wouldn't have. We carried batons, and we have. And if we need armed police, we have a special unit that goes out. Our armed police are specially trained. They are the only people who can carry weapons, and it is in a situation where it is needed. It is not something that is carried around by day-to-day policemen.
And in the UK, did you know that an armed vehicle has a star on it, on the roof? An orange star. So if a police vehicle comes and you see an orange star, they're possibly
shit your pants.
They're possibly armed. They're either arms unit trained, or they're dog handled. You know, they've got some kind of weapon on board. And I'm not telling you this to raid the vehicle. I'm telling you this: behave when you see one of those, because those guys are serious.
Okay. Yeah. There's a reason they're out. They only get called out for certain things. It's not a case of, like I say, they're not just the regular police who patrol. These are called out. Watch 24 Hours in Police Custody like I have every single. every single episode.
They're always in the town that I work in, to be honest. 24 hours in police custody. They did a two-parter the other day about
Oh, is that what's on right now? Is it just come out?
I think it was last week or the week before. There was a lady. I used to serve her in the pub, and she got killed. It's nothing new. There was a big whole murder situation over a sausage in the town that I worked in. Yeah, honestly, it gets really weird. And
I thought what happens outside my front door is fucking terrifying. I've lived here all my life. I've lived here for 41 years, and Anthony and me moved here together. So I mean, me and Anthony have been together for 18 years nearly, but 7 years ago we moved here, where I grew up. And within the first month, woman gets killed 2 seconds away from us. She's burnt alive in a car, literally 2 minutes away from my house. A year later, guy I went to school with was in a car accident. Two friends freaked out because the car, I think, might have been stolen or they were on drug or something like that. Because when they had a car crash, he was impaled with a fence. They shit themselves, drove up my street and kicked him out of the car and then drove away. They got a conscience later because obviously someone came out and found him, and he died though. So then I went to school with him, and this is all within me moving back to where I live now.
We've had some seriously weird ones. Like we had the one over a sausage. Then we had the one over a miscommunication with regards to a guy who liked a lady, but not in that way. She was a good friend to him, and the partner basically did some horrific things to this guy. They got him really high and drunk, and then they set his body on fire in a bush. And they carried him after they'd stabbed him numerous times. They put him over a bike and wheeled him up the street, dead on the bike. And they wheeled him up the street, threw him in a bush, tried to set him on fire. And somebody going to work saw some feet dangling out of the bush on the way to work one morning, and they found him. And that's just one of many. We've got so many famous cases in the town that I work in, not the town I live in, I moved away, but the town that I work in. We also had this one about the unsolved mystery of the woman who got killed in her own bungalow. It was on Crime Watch and everything. No one could find out. The little old lady, no one knew who did it. And recently it got found out. I think it was a relation or a neighbour, someone really close.
This is wept. Well, a year after the guy outside of mine, me and Anth, I drove Anth to work, and as we're driving to work, forensics team out on the corner street, like this is a little roundabout, go straight along. It's just one long road, and you go past Pension Monument. Forensics, the works out on a corner, and found out that a drug dealer got taken out by another drug dealer, and they found him in his wheelie bin. And the only reason they knew he was in there is because his ear was left on the top. This is where I live.
It's the calling card. It's like, shh, no one will ever know. Did you put his ear in the bin? Fuck.
He's in there. He's in there. So Robert dies, and we are left with the famous scene of Catherine and Robert's funeral. Now, originally, the ending was going to be all three of them were gone.
Yeah.
But he was convinced otherwise to not do that because of the potential of where it could lead to, or the idea. And don't get us wrong, Richard Donner was never going to do a follow-up to this. This is one and done for him. But it was the idea in people's head of shit.
Still out there. Yeah.
Shit, that kid's still there. Yeah, shit. And he was with the president, even though that's not who he goes to in the second one. He goes to the president's brother.
Yeah.
But I think that's a vice president. But yeah, and that leaves us at the end with Damien doing that cheeky little smile.
Yeah, I still stand by two things from this film I've taken. It is a love story.
Yes,
and it's
100%.
also a false narrative, because Damien is not evil. He is just they've made him an idol they've given him this pedestal to be evil, yet he didn't commit one heinous crime other than to slap his mother a bit.
He's a what's it called, like a, I don't know, we use the word messiah, martyr, maybe.
They just made him this
the thing. Idea of him.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get us wrong, the first Omen, watch it, because it does give a lot of explanation to this one, but it's a shame that you have to use that one to know about this one. I only know what I do because of what I had. I did not read any of this for this review. I didn't even do it for the other one. Like, I was so fascinated by this movie when I watched it that I had to read everything to do with it. So when it came down to watching the new one, I was like, I don't like some of the changes. Some of them kind of like worked, but a lot didn't. Having a duplicate scene of the It's All For You, Damien, was not needed.
The first Omen one.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
almost has like a duplicate scene in there. I mean, don't get us wrong, Charles Dance's death. Oh,
but
you
that was
bugger.
kind of a replica of the death of Father Brennan as well. So it was very samey for
Yeah.
me.
Mhm.
So, but yeah,
And it didn't need it. If you wanted it, you could have told a very good story,
Mhm.
using this as a basis
Yeah,
to try and help the viewer who may not be able to get the hidden meaning behind Damien's presence with the American senator and why they did it for. Because that's the question that very rarely gets answered. Why him?
because there's a tiny little scene, and it's very quick. It's so quick, where David Warner reads a passage out of one of the Old Testaments to Gregory Peck, basically reading between the lines. He reads him this passage, and then he says to him, it's something to do with politics, putting him in a position where he's in politics. And it's a very short, very quick scene, and then they flip to talking about something else. So if you don't catch that bit, you've got no idea why they've
Yeah,
placed him with
with
him.
him. Yeah, they
Then
need him to be there.
yeah, that's that tiny bit of exposition you actually do get, like pre-story. It's like I say, it's very quick, and they don't linger on it long, for my opinion, anyway. So
No, and I love the fact in the first Omen that it is an organization, that there were more people involved.
yeah,
Because if it was just Brennan on his own, I'd have been fucking livid that it was him. But I adore this film. I really do. I'm quite shocked that it's taken us this long to actually say let's do this episode because of how much I love it. Like I said, there's no fundamental, like with The Exorcist, like there's so much in that I can say like, oh, this is the reason why I love this and da. I can't do that with this one. If you say why do I love it for, I'm going to struggle to give you an answer. But for me, it's very special.
Richard Donner stated categorically this was not a supernatural movie.
And it does no, and it doesn't need to be, because it's not. That's not, for me. That's not what it's about. It's the conspiracy. It's
Yeah,
the idea of putting Damien in a position of power to lure people to a church. That's all they wanted to do.
bums on seats, sell those tickets.
Prove a point that religion matters and it is needed, because the idea of church and state has always been a huge argument, and if you put the two together, which you do see a lot in certain places.
God bless America. Yeah,
Yeah. We are incredibly fortunate that that is not our lives.
no, we are a country of multi faiths, multi diversities. We
Mhm.
let everybody be. We don't find the need to preach one religion over the other. For the majority of us,
The
you
good
know,
people do.
it's a
We
living
had that we had that
ocean.
proven not very long ago,
Yeah.
that there's some very people who possibly will disagree with what we're saying.
Oh, 100%.
100%.
But, their opinion means nothing to me. So see
Nah,
ya. But
fuck
yeah, I
all.
mean, we are a very lucky nation in respect of that. When you look at the statistics from the most recent, we have a thing we have to do, a census every X amount of years. I think it's 10
Yeah.
years. We do have to do a census here, and in that census, you write down what your religion is. And for the first time, me and Rob
Ever.
got to put we're members of the Satanic Temple.
Sure.
And when they did the splits for the statistics on religious beliefs, Christianity was under 50% for the first time ever in the last census, and other was on the rise by a huge amount. And other could mean an unrecognized faith, which was obviously mine, or a agnostic, or atheism. Atheist. Oh, I was going to say atheism, and it came out wrong. Or like those beliefs, and I think that's why we are lucky. It's never considered as a political law. It's not. There's no God. There's no Bible decisions in any policies that are made, and if they are, they get shut down because we ain't interested.
Pagans have certain tick boxes now and certain scripture that can be read out in court. Especially, I think a lot of that's in America as well. Probably more in America than over here. But I swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth. So help me God. That if you're pagan, you don't have to.
Yeah, I don't the Bible now. As part of if I was to go and give evidence, I have the option now to say I'd rather not because I don't believe, in this.
Yeah.
So
Anthony, you would put he was like part of the Jedi Order or something like that.
So they get you to say, something very similar, but along the lines of, in your own, it's in your own faith or in your own belief, instead of saying God, it's something, very much like that. But
my grandmother would be spitting in her grave if she could hear me talk today, the devout Roman Catholic that she was.
I'm from a Roman Catholic too. All my dad's side, my dad's a Roman Catholic.
She only did it when it fucking suited her. Like, she was such a picky and choosy kind of woman. Like, she really was. Love her though. She was funny as fuck. But that is The Omen. Are we done with The Omen?
I'd say so.
I loved it though. And I wouldn't mind at some point if we ever wanted to delve into the second and third one, because it is some interesting factors into it, and especially Damien's downfall.
And mainly Sam Neill for me. So
yeah, I mean, why not? The great. I was about to say late. Don't say that. If anything happens to him, I'm so sorry. So yeah, The Omen. Next week is, for the first time ever, something incredibly different.
Yes, we thought we would try it and just see how it goes down.
Test the waters, because on the very first episode, my introduction was to talk about real life Hollywood monsters. No, famous Hollywood monsters or real life Hollywood monsters. No, why do I keep saying Hollywood when I don't want to say that? I want to say real life monsters. I fucked that one up, man. I had that so perfect in my head. I can hear us saying it. But yeah, we're going to be doing, for the first time ever, our version of a true crime episode.
Yes. But there's going to be, we'll make sure there's trigger warnings at the beginning, because obviously it's real life stuff. It's different, in movies, you don't really have to give them because they're movies, but yeah.
But in this scenario, we're not gonna, the idea is that we will give you, what our interests are in true crime and how we've become interested in true crime. But because it's the week of Halloween, we're going to be looking more at Halloween true crime.
Yes, we're going to look into some spooky happenings and some possible strange stories that are creepy. Not necessarily that they happened around Halloween, just that they might, but just
just something. It's going to be spooky. It's going to be ooky, but it's also going to be very real. And I say that with a lot of seriousness, because it's the first time we've ever tried this, and no nerdy up north have done true crime, and we have been so careful, like to the point where you kind of don't know what it is you can and can't say.
Yeah.
So we're going to set the ground rules for ourselves. We listen to enough true crime podcasts between us that I feel we're going to do this justice.
Yeah, what we'll do is, before every story me and Sam tell you, we will give a little trigger warning before, listing what the triggers are. You can fast forward that section if you so wish, if you're on audio. If you're on YouTube, you can just turn off for half an hour, 20 minutes, go watch something else.
We're going to be very sensitive about the matter.
But I will also probably talk about things, not in great detail. I'm not going to go into any kiddie stuff. Let's be honest. Kids murder is out the window.
Out the window. I have a godson, and I know he's not my son or anything like that, but I still have. I'm so attached to this kid that it kind of like gives us it unsettles me a lot now. But what I don't want to do, and I want to make this very clear because I have such a different stance from who I was 10 years ago when it comes down to the glorification of these monsters, these actual real life monsters, that I will not be doing that. Or at least my aim is not to do that.
I will say I won't be using any of what we call the big hitters. You're not going to hear about any of those guys with me. I'm going to go out of my way to find cases that are maybe ambiguous, maybe unsolved, maybe ones that you don't know necessarily what happened, that there could be other factors in, because for me, true crime is such a big thing and has been since lockdown. So you're talking the last 4 years, women predominantly love their true crime, love watching documentaries, and it's how a lot of us chill out and calm down. Most of my podcasts
Same.
I listen to,
Oh yeah,
I listen to Morbid, I listen to True Crime and Cocktails, I listen to Red Handed, I listen to
Red-handed's mine.
Wisdom. The only thing about Red Handed for me is the two girls when they start going on about how they went backpacking on their gap year when mummy and daddy paid for it all. It just takes me out of it a little bit.
Yeah, it's that, and I love Sorority, and I can't think of the Hannah. I do love them, and their research ever since they've made this their full-time job, their research just keeps getting better and better. There's a few episodes that I've disagreed with. The Michael Alec one, they didn't do enough research on Club Kids at all. West Memphis 3, I'm gonna be fucking started. But I listened to last podcast on the left, and Marcus Parks is the king of research. And they can, the best thing about last podcast on the left is that they are dealing with serious fucking topics, but can still make you, and they're not making fun of that. They are making you smile because of how shitty it is that these subjects are. It's all aimed at you. It's not aimed at the subject matter.
Yeah.
I feel like if we can get all this out the way with now, when it comes to next week, we simply can just go into it. Like I would love to. I know where my morals are now with true crime. That it's very difficult. It could be. Do you know what it is? It could be so easy tomorrow just to me and Dan set up a new podcast and be like, right, we're talking true crime, and we probably could make a killing. But morally, I just can't physically do it.
It's one of these things we've been meaning to do, and we're
We have
60 something episodes down the line, and we finally thought, right, okay, we'll give it a try. It's not something I just want to make it very clear, it's not going to be a series, it's not going to
no,
raise its head for a very, very long time again.
no.
But it's something that we've been talking about. We want to try, we want to see how it goes, and if it gets a great response, we'll talk about it. We'll definitely
Yeah,
have a conversation about it. But really, monsters for us is entailed in the movie lands mainly.
it's
However,
Hollywood, baby.
however, we did say we would touch on these guys at some point. So
We did. I literally said it on the first episode. I never said it again afterwards, because we weren't too sure.
yeah.
We weren't 100% sure. But because with it being Halloween, we thought we did Trick or Treat last year.
Mm-hmm.
And we've already covered the actual Halloween movie. I'm pointing up here because my poster's there. So we thought we'd do something different for Halloween, but I just wanted to get all this bit out the way with now, so we can kind of, because the idea is to look into different cases as opposed to these big hitters, to and not glorify these fucking evil people like you have seen on these Netflix documentaries and TV series, and the more that there's coming out, and there's more.
I'm never going to
Yeah.
financially recover from this. Because there was a huge thing with the old Tiger King, right? Okay, he might not have necessarily killed anybody, but that guy was done for a lot of fraud. The guy did a lot of things wrong, that man, and yet he became this saint over
Yeah,
lockdown. Old Tiger King,
Joe Exotic pulled us out of a shithole we really needed to climb out of, because how distracted were we in them first few weeks of lockdown when that came out, because that's all we talked about.
That was a genius move by Netflix, I have
Massive.
to say. Fantastic move, and that kick-started this whole need for more information, because
It's
we
been
couldn't
there.
go out
It's
and
just
get it.
mhm.
So podcasts started popping up, and people started listening more to things because they
Mhm.
didn't have anything to do, so they were bored. And then more of these true crime documentaries come out, and
And then every fucker becomes a sleuth.
yeah.
Didn't get us started on that. I'll not stop. And I won't. I promise I won't bring up it next week.
Yeah.
I can't. No, don't fucking watch it. Because I can't. I knew about that guy years ago
Yeah,
and
so
what
did
he
I.
did. And I came this close to seeing it on actual YouTube when it was on there originally, and I am so fucking. I don't need that.
No,
I
I really
don't
need
need that
that.
in here.
Yeah.
So I don't ever want to watch that documentary. I'm not fucking stupid. Someone sent us a message and went, don't do it. Just don't. I'm telling you now, don't. And I went, don't worry. I have no intention
But
at
I will
all.
say I do follow Bodhi Move On, who was the woman that actually was the main catalyst for finding him, that
Mhm.
Lucas thing. And I follow her on TikTok, and I have to say she still gets quite involved in certain things. But
Mm.
that woman knows what she's doing.
As
She's not
long as she keeps herself at a distance,
yeah,
that's
she's not one of these crazed obsessed people that I can tell. She just puts all of her research in whenever
yeah.
when she's looking into something, she does it properly.
They
And
are.
that's
They
what
are
I've
there.
got time for, you know.
No, and I get that. Michelle McNamara is she helped bring in the Golden State Killer. So
Patton Oswalt's wife, wasn't it?
yes, the one who
Yeah,
died. So
yeah.
sad. So sad. And I may actually, she might be one of mine because I did read her book. It's fucking fantastic. Like, talk about a true pure investigation where she's working with the police, not against them. She's not divulging information now to people. She's not making any accusations. She's not pointing fingers. She's just doing good old detective work. And there's a documentary series if you want to watch it called Have You Gone in the Morning? I want to say I'll Be Gone in the Morning. I do have the book. Yeah, I'll Be Gone in the Morning. And it's a 6-part documentary series on HBO. Fucking fantastic. This is a documentary series where there's no glorification because, to be honest, there's no glory until the end. And unfortunately, Michelle's not there to see it all. Anywho's, I'm getting well ahead of myself. And we have a very busy few. Well, she has a very few busy days ahead of us, and I will be there.
Because when this goes out, oh, what a weekend.
Oh gosh, we did.
Oh, what a weekend.
I
I
did,
yay.
I did this when we recorded Monsters because we recorded Monsters in advance, and I did this all the way through the episode, going, Jess, it was such a good weekend. How tired are we? So, and Jess, to her credit, played along with me, and I didn't think she was gonna.
Brilliant.
So yes, as this goes out, our weekend will be over. But at this very moment in time, as we're recording, it hasn't even started, not by a long shot. Loki, please stop. But it's going to be fine. It's going to be great. When this is out, we're going to know that we had the best time. Dan had the best time.
Dan becomes
Sponsor-
an alcoholic on Saturday.
Sponsoring the main trading hall, apt for the love of horror.
If
Yay!
people do come that have been that are watching this and you have taken any photos, it'd be really cool to see people. If we could do a thread on Nerdy maybe of like
Yeah.
people that have been and photos they've taken and people they've met, that'd be a really cool thing to do, I think, you
Yeah,
know.
like a whole collage of it. We'll set
Yeah,
up a post.
and we'll do the
But
monsters tag in it because you know I'm biased, so don't need to tag don't need to tag me Bleeding Marvelous, but you can tag monsters because we need some love. There's people out there. Go to the socials. I need to express how much time and effort Sammy puts in to the Instagram page, to the TikTok. I don't do any of that because I'm having a mental breakdown about 90% of the time these days for shows and just things in general. So Sam has taken that away from me, and she is the one who's responsible for getting the numbers right up there. So
and
please,
I did it.
go follow us on Instagram and on TikTok because she puts so much work into that. So please, thanks.
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 Thank you. Yeah, the Instagram is blown up. And I know these numbers might not mean anything to anyone, but they mean something to me because like I've worked hard for it. With help. I do have some help. But Monsters Up North on Instagram is like 1,200 and something now. It's TikTok that's blew my mind. I'm nearly at 2,000. That might be a fucking exaggeration. But I'm certain it might be. I'm over 1,000. I know that for sure. And it's just every day it's ticking along nicely. The views are great. To be honest, I'm having so much fun doing the hour videos like of old episodes, because then I sit like I did the Zara one today and I end up sitting watching half of it and I'm like, no, you just meant to be getting a screen grab of this. Stop. Because it was so much fun. But yes, thank you so much for that. Go and check out our socials. Check out Bleeding Marvel. Bleeding Marvelous. Jesus Christ, Sam. But for us, you can catch us on a Monday, 8 o'clock on the Nerdy Up North YouTube channel. You can find us on audio by searching Monsters Up North. Our audio goes up every Tuesday along with every other episode associated with Nerdy Up North, but you do have to search each individual podcast name. It's not under the Nerdy Up North bracket. They have their own sections. The links for Bleeding Marvelous, Monsters Up North, and Nerdy Up North are where, Dan, with your beautiful. Are we showing the? Oh, look at them nails.
You
Show
can't
you
really
Terra
see
Rising.
it.
I can see him. There's art. They're
Yeah.
fantastic.
So down there,
Down there. They're right down there.
it's so sharp. I have poked myself with them about 1,000 times. Like literally.
Please stop. I'm getting mine put back on Friday. Whoosh. And
Just a quick. I just want a quick special mention to Mr. Christopher Reed for downing a whole shot glass of our hot sauce, and I wondered if he's dead because I haven't heard of him since. So
no, he's unfortunately, that's horrible. He's very much still alive. He did a video. Paul did a video of testing it, and
yes,
he is an absolute chicken shit when it comes down to hot sauce. So dead, but Chris,
that was choice.
it's the shot. It's the fact that he sent you a video the following day with his toilet roll in the freezer.
I haven't seen that video. No one sent me that one.
It's on one of your comments where
Oh, is it? Right,
yeah,
okay.
it's on one of your comments where he's like, he opens the freezer up and his toilet rolls in there and he's like, just there for safekeepings. But yeah, what else do I add at the end?
That's it.
Links.
Honestly, we is done did.
Well, if there's nothing else left to say goodbye, Dan.
See you, pals.
What's that off?
Friends.
Oh my god. Okay. Stay spooky, everyone. Bye.